10 of the most incredible city transformations. Do you guys dream about sipping Mai Tais on top of the Burj Khalifa, or perhaps enjoying some street food in Seoul, South Korea? Or maybe party till you drop on the streets of LA? These are big cities with plenty of offers, but believe it or not, they weren't always like this. Los Angeles wasn't the city of lights, and neither was Dubai the city of skyscrapers. Watching these cities emerge from piles of dust into the great cities they are today is a phenomenal process. In today's video, we're going to talk about 10 of the most incredible city transformations. So sit back and watch. Number 1. Las Vegas. Starting off with perhaps everyone's favorite place for wild parties, Las Vegas laid down its roots in 1911. After that, the city had to deal with criminal underground activists all the way through the 1970s. But that changed with the construction of the Boulder Dam, as around that time, the city saw a population boost. This was also when Fremont Street, the one we all know and love, became the center of the town, along with speakeasies and brothers. In 1946 came Bugsy Siegel and Meyer Lansky, who together opened up the Flamingo. The final transformation came in the 1980s, when Steve Wynn opened up a mega resort as the mafia's influence over the city waned off. And with the Mirage looking over the city, many other mega resorts followed suit that now host 40 million visitors every year. Number 2. Abu Dhabi. There is no place like Abu Dhabi in the world. You'll find the Ferrari World here, as well as the world's fastest roller coaster. But before this city was a luxury destination, it was one big old desert, and you can thank Sheikh Zayed for giving it a makeover that it's so needed. He single-handedly created farmable land in the desert and planted about 40 million palm trees. And once the city found oil, it was goodbye to deserts and welcomed tourists and a serious cash inflow. Now you'll find modern art galleries, Formula One racing tracks, and impressive mosques. Number 3. Dubai. See this city of skyscrapers and article islands before you? The destination of all honeymoons and summer getaways. Well, believe it or not, but 30 years ago, Dubai was nothing. Absolutely nothing but a heap of sand. The city was first discovered back in the 7th century and quickly occupied its position as the merchant hub because of its location near the Persian Gulf. It was a few years before Dubai took on a different shape. One significant moment came in 1966 when the country discovered oil, and then in 1971 when the British left. Afterward, Dubai focused its effort on becoming a tourist attraction in the world. And now, with the completion of the Burj Khalifa, the palm trees, and other tourist attractions, the city stands tall. Number 4. Tokyo. Now, Tokyo may not have been the site of an atomic bomb, but make no mistake, the city's seen its fair share of bad days. Imagine your house being destroyed by a firestorm. Sounds crazy, right? Well, that's what happened on March 10, 1945. The raid on Tokyo leads to one of the world's first firestorms, claiming the life of 105,000 people. That was nothing compared to Nagasaki, where only 70,000 people died. And although the Americans did destroy it, they also played a role in rebuilding it. When enemies threatened the country to weigh off communism in the 1940s, it was the US that stood by its side. And now the city stands tall with the Tokyo Tower at its center. It was built back in 1958 to mimic the famous Eiffel Tower. Right now there are over 37 million people in Tokyo, which, if you didn't know, is greater than New York's, a city 4 times bigger than Tokyo's. Number 5. New York City. Speaking of New York, the Big Apple wasn't always the Big Apple. Not long ago, the city only had 3.3 million people, which is actually smaller than modern-day Seattle. If you go back to 1900, you won't find Times Square, and in fact, you'll find Long Acre Square. It was around this time that the owner of the New York Times, Adolph S. Oches, decided to build the well-known Times Tower. It's a far cry from the modern-day tower, but an architectural marvel nonetheless. The tower was relocated within a year, but not before Oches hosted the first ever New Year's Eve spectacular party on the streets of New York. Ever since then, the New York countdown has been happening ever since. The electronic ball was dropped 3 years after 1904, and we've seen 7 different versions of it since then. Number 6. Singapore. Singapore is one city you can't take your eyes off of. It boasts of the most successful economies in the world, and what's even more impressive is that it ranks as the 3rd least corrupt country on Earth. You'll also be surprised to know that Singapore means Lion City, and according to historians, there has never been a single lion on the city grounds. Back in the 13th century, the founder of the city claimed that he saw a lion, and ever since then the name stuck. Other than its names and some beautiful scenery, the country is also known for its strict laws. You could get 2 years in prison or be asked to pay a $100,000 fine for selling gum. Number 7. Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro occupied its position as the capital of Brazil when the country gained independence from Portugal back in 1822. Back then, soccer may not have been around, but the carnival sure was. As for the parade competitions that we know, they were introduced in 1933, allowing people to wear whatever they wanted and dance in the streets. The world-famous Christ the Redeemer was built in 1922 and finished in just 2 years. It's named one of the 7 wonders of the world and definitely adds charm to the city. Number 8. San Francisco. Like Tokyo, San Francisco has seen its fair share of bad days as well. Back in 1906, a 70-magnitude earthquake reduced the city to rubble. But the city steered on, and when the dust settled, it emerged stronger than ever. Silicon Valley blew up in the early 1970s, and although it saw its ups and downs, it's well stale now. The city's overflowing with people, and we're not kidding. You could find a job in the city, but your chances of finding a place to live are slim to none. And let's not forget that it's one of the most expensive places to live in the country. Number 9. Seoul, South Korea. If you go back to 1900, you won't find a megacity but farmland where Seoul is today. The city saw some slow development throughout the 20th century. However, the city's sights took a turn for the better in 1961 when Park Chung-hee became the president of South Korea. He promoted industrialization in the country, which led to a stable economy for the country. With that, they were able to modernize their cities. They did rush the process that led to some tragedies like the Seongsu Bridge collapse in 1994 and the Sampoong department store collapse in 1995. However, South Korea was able to bounce back from these tragedies, and in a matter of 50 years, the city landscape looked completely unrecognizable with innovative architecture and dazzling lights. Number 10. London. London is one city whose skyline on every planet Earth would be recognized. But before the London Eye stood tall in the city, London presented a whole different picture. London took some heavy damage during the Second World War as it was hit by 12,000 tons of bombs. These bombings claimed over 1 million buildings, leaving the city unrecognizable in ruins. But after many years, the government set to building a lot of high-rises. Barbican Center is one of the most popular, as the rest don't enjoy the same popularity. It is the largest of its kind in Europe. It's hard to believe that this structure that was built on bombed land would become home to anyone. But now with its 2,000 apartments, art gallery and conservatory, the center is one of the most desirable places to live. Other than that, we've also seen Shard, the cheese grater, and the gherkin. No wonder London is one of the richest cities in the world. Alright, that's a wrap for today's video. Which of these cities do you plan to visit on your next world tour? Let us know in the comments section below. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more videos. Bye now.